Pavel hit rock bottom after his release from prison, and the death of his mother left him alone and hopeless. He was desperate for a job, but no one wanted to hire him. One day he came across an ad about a cemetery caretaker and decided to try. On the very first day Pavel met Oleg Vasilievich, an old man and a stern-looking man. Oleg showed him the ropes and gave him some basic instructions. Pavel had to be on duty for several days and live in the provided house. The salary was decent, and there were no requirements for documents or experience. At first, the work seemed to be trouble-free. Pavel patrolled the cemetery during the day and locked the gates at night. But as the days passed, strange things began to happen. He heard footsteps and whispers in the dead of night, and sometimes he could swear that he saw shadows moving between the graves. Pavel tried to brush it off, telling himself that it was just his imagination. But the incidents became more frequent, and soon he could no longer ignore them. One night he woke up to find his house door wide open. He searched the premises, but there were no signs of forced entry or any intruders. The work of the cemetery watchman was supposed to be quiet and peaceful, but it turned into a nightmare. Pavel couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was watching him hiding in the shadows. He tried to quit his job, but no one else hired him. As the weeks passed, Pavel's sanity began to fade. He became paranoid, hardly slept, and was always on edge. The strange phenomena only continued, and he could no longer explain them. One night, while patrolling the cemetery, he heard a voice whispering his name. He turned around and saw a figure looming in the darkness. It was a woman in a torn dress. Her eyes shone with an otherworldly light. She beckoned him closer, and despite his horror, he found himself walking towards her. That night Pavel never returned from his shift. The cemetery caretaker became another victim, lost to the obsessive and evil spirits that roamed the cemetery. Throughout the day, Pavel's anxiety grew. The cemetery seemed to come alive at night, and the darkness of the trees seemed to hide some sinister presence. Oleg Vasilievich warned him about strange incidents in the past, but Pavel dismissed this as a simple superstition. When the sun set and the shadows became longer, Pavel locked the gates and settled in his new house. He tried to distract himself with a book, but the rustling of leaves and the crackling of branches outside only irritated him. Suddenly there was a loud knock on the gate. Pavel's heart beat faster when he looked through the peephole. He saw a dark figure standing on the other side, but couldn't he make out any features. "Who is this?" he shouted in a trembling voice. There was no response, just a low growl. Pavel's fear turned to panic, and he stumbled back to his room, locking the door behind him. He heard the figure knocking on the gate and growling louder and louder, and then abruptly stopped. Pavel sat in silence, his heart pounding in his chest. After a few hours, he plucked up the courage and looked through the peephole again. There was nothing there. Trembling, Pavel spent the rest of the night barricaded in his room, listening to the eerie sounds of the cemetery outside. In the morning, he found scratches on the gate, as if something was trying to squeeze in. Over the next few nights, Pavel heard even more strange noises and saw ghostly figures moving between the tombstones. He tried to convince himself that it was just his imagination, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As the days turned into weeks, Pavel's mental state worsened. He became more and more paranoid, barely slept, and was constantly on edge. He began to see ghostly visions and felt an overwhelming sense of fear every time he went outside. One night, while making his rounds, he heard a strange singing coming from one of the old graves. As he approached, he saw a group of hooded figures performing some kind of dark ritual. They turned to him, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Pavel turned and ran, but he heard their footsteps chasing him in the dark. He stumbled and fell, and felt their cold hands grab his limbs. He screamed and thrashed, but he knew it was too late.